And it does.
I'm on time. I'm on time.
You're really cutting it close today.
Yeah, and we are live. So welcome everyone to another edition of Wine and Whiskey Wednesdays with the Hot Ninjas, hiring, onboarding, team training.
You'll recognize this.
Oh, 2 sheets. Yes. Excellent. We have some new faces online with us. Welcome, Betty. Welcome, Ross. I believe it's your first time for both of you. I don't think you've been on before, Ross, have you?
No, keep meaning to. I never get to. And after today, I need the wine, and because I had a very long call with Ceridian.
Okay. Okay, so
Zoom meeting with them and me and 300 other people from other companies.
yes, absolutely. So welcome to another edition of Wine and Whiskey Wednesday. It has been a challenging week, should I say challenge? Is challenging the right word?
Interesting.
It's been an interesting week. We're certainly experiencing things that we've never experienced before. We're probably experiencing things that we never even thought we would need to consider when we were talking about, setting up fail safes for our business or how we wanted to do things. And everyone, the move has kind of been towards remote over the last several years. But mostly it's been voluntary, that you've decided that you wanted to be remote, and now you're forced to be remote. So even if you didn't necessarily want to be in this space, you're being forced to be in this space. So we thought that there's so much information that's flying around. As everyone I'm sure knows, every day, it's different numbers that come out, it's different tax incentives and tax relief measures that are coming out, things that we have to talk about with our clients, things that, so there's so much information. So we thought that we would, kind of get some focus, start out, thinking about some positive things as well. I mean, there's a lot of negativity as well in your feeds, in your social media, on the news, if you turn on the news or you turn on the radio. And so we're going to start out. So welcome Kelly and Linda and Suzanne. So we're going to start out with something funny. So who has a joke that they would like to share? And I think Steve,
Steve's really anxious.
You wanted to start us off with a joke.
Sure, and there's one prerequisite. The best jokes are those that get the biggest, what's the word?
Eye roll or groan.
Yeah, not laugh, but
the biggest eye roll.
Groan. That's the best joke.
Okay.
So here's mine, and I think I have a winner here.
Well, you did get a groan from me when you shared it with me, so.
Well, I know. I won't repeat what you said. Okay, so here we go. I had to give up using the work carpool as I got panic attacks every time we drove through the tunnel. I have carpool tunnel syndrome.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Thank you. There's the winner. There's the winner.
Yes, there were groans. There were eye rolls. I saw Jennifer's eye roll.
Well, let me hear one that's worse than that.
Oh, I got one for you. You might have seen this on Facebook.
Sure.
Because of the shortage in toilet paper, I've started to use dryer sheets to wipe my ass. Excuse the language, okay? I now have a lavender smelling ass, and it's for the first time in 40 years, it's wrinkle free.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Well, that was good. Come on, that was good.
Yeah, that one's okay. That one's okay.
Surprised it was on Facebook.
Yeah, the wrinkle-free part was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tied it up at the end with that wrinkle-free. I don't know.
Yeah, I was a little worried where we were going with that, but okay.
With the lavender? Okay.
Come
Anyone
on,
else?
it's dryer sheet. I had to figure that one out.
Clean joke.
Absolutely. Yes. So we do have to say that there can be no cursing, only because we have been removed once from Facebook because there was cursing, and so we had to apply to get our page back. So we do request that there is no cursing.
Okay.
Any other jokes?
There is one thing though. Cursing is allowed as long as Facebook doesn't hear it.
Bleep.
Well, but since Siri
Well,
and
actually, so I got an email yesterday because I posted, it was on, I think it was on Brad's group, a question about EI requirements with people that you were laying off because of the coronavirus and businesses were closing down. And somebody posed the question as to how they calculate, I don't remember what it was, how they calculate something. And I posted a link, which was the answer to their question, which was a link from a Government of Canada website. And it got flagged and the comment was removed. And I got a notification from Facebook saying that my comment was removed because it didn't meet community requirements.
That's happening all over the place. I've had people that are been taken off of Facebook.
Wow, really? Okay.
There's
Yeah,
multiple
they just
flags.
removed my comment and said that nobody else could see it. And then I saw somewhere else that there was a notification, I think it was a news article or something, that said that because of the coronavirus, so many people from Facebook are now working remotely and they're working home. So they have increased the number of AI bots that are going through in order to make sure that there aren't scams and spam and everything related to the virus. So they've increased their level of AI robots. And so there are things that are getting caught outside of what normally would get caught where there's human intervention. So it was interesting though. Even Facebook's AI isn't perfect. So hey,
Living
Kirsten
definitely not perfect.
and Bianca and Audra have joined us online. Welcome, welcome everyone. Any more jokes before we get started?
I got one.
Jennifer.
What do you call an alligator in a vest? An investigator.
Oh.
Oh,
That's unanimous. I win.
Right up there.
I'm giving the win to Jennifer.
Yeah, I am too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, Steve.
excellent. Any other jokes before we move forward?
Yeah, I'm not sure we can get anything to top that.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, so we've talked a lot over the last week. There's been a lot of conversations about the coronavirus. Now, I don't know if we're calling it COVID-19, we're calling it coronavirus. It's all the same thing. And so Steve wanted to share a different perspective that he saw on Twitter, right? It was Twitter, I think it was. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Steve. Why don't you
Sure.
share
Okay.
and give some background on it?
Well, I guess, with all the stuff going around, none of us deal well with uncertainty, right? With the unknown. And I think, certainly, and I certainly fall into that camp. And one of the things I think that has really made me feel quite anxious about this whole thing that's going on is you hear all this stuff about, the number of new cases, and people, being really sick, but I have no expectations or hadn't been able to find what actually happens when you get sick. Like, I have not seen that anywhere. I get, the, self-isolation and the social distancing and all that kind of stuff, to flatten that curve. And okay, that all makes sense to me. But if I get this thing, like, what happens? And so I actually found something on Twitter, which, believe it or not, actually helped me feel better. And I don't usually find stuff on Twitter that makes me feel better. But this was a health worker in the UK who actually got the coronavirus, and then over a period of several days documented on Twitter exactly what was happening to him and how he felt each day. And so I just wanted to share it. It'll only take a couple of minutes because it actually made me feel better because I could relate to it as he was actually talking about each day. So he actually came down, I don't know when he tested positive, but he actually got sick with the virus on March the 10th and actually went back to work today, March the 18th. But if you'll just bear with me for a couple of minutes, I'd like to just share with you, and hopefully for some of our audience, it makes them feel a little better as well, just, you know, knowing that this is what happens. So he started out and basically just said day one was the day of fevers and exhaustion. I had shivers and sweats were the story of the day. That and being utterly exhausted and my body aching. Temperature was 39 degrees. And after one flight of stairs, I had to stop for a rest and had no appetite at all. Day two, no energy. Horizontal was the position to be in. Sweats and shivers ongoing, but not as bad as day one. Started coughing, but it was not a huge issue. Intermittent headache started, whole body was aching and feeling weak. Again, still no appetite, but felt a little bit better or a little brighter was the word he used than on day one. Day three, feeling worse. Headache and fatigue worse, cough less frequent, appetite is improving, but far from normal. Another day of frequent naps and predominantly in the horizontal state. Had to help with childcare in the evening. Either the baby has doubled in weight or I'm half as strong as I used to be. Day four, cough very infrequent now, but the headaches are still there, but they're getting a little better. Whole body is still aching, functionality pretty useless, would quite like to feel better. Day five, still very tired, no headaches anymore. Appetite is about a half to 2/3 of what it normally is. Still no desire to leave the bed or the sofa, let alone the house, which is fortunate since I still have 2 days of my self-isolation to go. Day six, feeling a little better, or thought I was, but then I fell asleep on the sofa for an hour. So fatigue is still ongoing and lacking energy. No desire to leave the house, and hoping tomorrow will bring me more energy. And that was sort of the last day. The next day, he was feeling better. And then, like I say, he was back at work today. In fact, his rant on Twitter today was he was ranting about why is it in the UK that sports figures and celebrities don't have any problems getting a test, but the healthcare workers who are helping people are having all kinds of trouble trying to get tested for the virus. But anyway, hopefully that wasn't a waste of time for everyone. I just wanted to share it because I know it made me feel better thinking, okay, so it just sounds like it's a bad case of the flu, at least for him. He's a 47-year-old guy, said he was relatively healthy before he got this. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm done.
Awesome. No, I think it was very helpful. Hey, Tiffany. So I think it was helpful because we haven't seen a lot of what does it feel like when you get it, other than, yes, it kind of feels like the flu. So I think that absolutely was helpful.
We had
Excellent.
something on our local news in Maryland. A person had said that they had it, and they said that they had a very high fever, and she was on the news saying that she was feeling better and her fever had come down to 108. So I don't know how high it was, but she did say that there was hallucinations, because of the fever. And otherwise, she didn't even explain anything else. So we really don't know. And they say it does hit everybody differently. Some people don't have any kind of signs that have it. And then others get the fever and the chills.
Well, I guess, I mean, if you think about it, everybody gets the flu differently.
Right.
Some people get it on an extreme level. For some people, it's serious. They end up in the hospital. And for some people, you know, it's okay, a day or two in bed and they're good to go. And you can't even tell they had the flu. So I don't know why this would be any different.
But she said it was worse than the flu for her.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Does anybody know anybody that has tested positive?
No.
No.
We're off the map. We still don't even have a positive
Excellent.
case here in Sarnia-Lambton. So
Good.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think we're still very early here in Canada as well. I think.
yeah. It's
Well,
not if
I
it'll
hope we're at the
happen, it's
end.
when.
My
Well, and
daughter's in
hopefully we've gotten ahead of it, right? That we're not going to, you know, that we've done the social distancing and the shutting everything down, that it
Yeah.
isn't going to be as bad as it is in Europe and Italy and China
I've,
seems to have leveled off as
We're also
well.
2 weeks behind everything, right? So because the incubation period is so long. So you social distance for 2 weeks, but that's so there's a 2-week lag time between our actions and stopping.
Yes.
So it really, we'll see in the next week or so. We'll see what happens.
I have a colleague whose brother is actually a respiratory fellow, and he does research. And so his research right now is on COVID-19. And he said, so he's been tracking the data. And the way that if Canada listens to what the health department is saying, then we're going to fare well with it. But right now, the way that they're tracking the data in the US, he's predicting that it's going to be worse than what happened in Italy.
In the US?
Yeah, the US will be worse than
Oh
what
my.
has happened in Italy.
Wow.
Based on the predictive model that he's working on, that's what the target is.
Well, hopefully he's wrong. That's scary because Italy, it's brutal.
Well,
Can't
and I
even imagine.
wonder about what they're talking about with flattening the curve, right? So if it's a peak and a valley, the way it happened in China, where, you know, tons of people got it and they literally shut the place down, and now they're supposedly coming out of it. If we're flattening the curve, we're lengthening the amount of time that we're going to be under restriction. So if
My understanding of flattening the curve is flattening the quantity of occurrences in one shot, so it doesn't affect it doesn't overburden the healthcare system.
that's right, and I agree. But if, you know, in China, they flattened their curve and they were in and out in 4 months, because we're not really restricting and everybody's still visiting and social distancing is kind of sort of happening, then are we going to be under restrictions until October, till December? That's kind of where I'm looking at what's going on, is that because this isn't going away, right? This is a disease that's now going to be with us forever. It's not like SARS, it's not gone. It's now going to be part of our life for forevermore. Jonathan, I think you.
Yeah, Goldman Sachs on their investor call was predicting 8 weeks as the peak in the United States. Then there was some pretty interesting information from there, but pretty much the big message was there's no systematic risk. Like, they're not questioning the government's ability to continue or the economy's ability to continue. They anticipate all the stocks bouncing back in the second half of the year. But yeah, they were saying it by their estimates, it could affect, like, kill up to 3 million Americans.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So we need to do another joke. Do we need to do a joke after that? Kind of.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I got a joke.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Why did the banana go to the doctor? It didn't peel well.
Oh,
Nothing's gonna top that either.
yeah. I think she's got the cornerstone on bad jokes, Jennifer.
Wrong award.
You're winning.
I was following Steve,
Wrong award.
right? The goal was
Absolutely.
eye roll and groans.
You surpassed it.
Yeah.
Okay, I better stop there then.
Stop at the top.
Okay, so we've got Sal who's joined us. Welcome, Sal, and Amanda have joined us in the chat. So welcome, everyone. And if you are watching this later in the replay, just do hashtag replay in the comments. That would be great. Love to know how many people are watching it afterwards. So maybe a starting point, we've talked about, you know, some of the things that we've all heard. Everyone's heard something a little bit different. What are the places, what are your go-to places to try and find out what is going on? So let's start first with, you know, what's happening in terms of, are people following numbers? Are they following number of cases across different countries? What is your go-to place that you're going to for that information?
Well, I was going to say that I was thinking that the CDC website was pretty accurate. I did hear on something, I don't remember if it was the news or where I heard it from, that not everything's always being reported to them, that it's more on a state level. And so my daughter's in Guam in the Navy, and on the CDC website, it shows that all of the islands don't have any cases yet. And so I said something to her about it, and she goes, that's not true. We do have cases, and they're already quarantining them. So to believe really how many, where they are.
I've heard Johns Hopkins is pretty up to date.
Yeah.
And Steve, you said there was one other one that you mentioned. One was John Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm CDC, Johns Hopkins, and then the other one is called World-O-Meter.
Yes. Yeah, I got that on my phone.
Yeah.
World-O-Meter?
And that one is, the numbers on there are supposedly pretty accurate as to what is actually going on. And basically it's all, it's updated. I don't know how often they update it, but I mean, the numbers literally seem to change as you're looking at it. Yeah. But it gives you cases, deaths by country, recoveries, those that have mild cases, those that are more severe. Why do you think there doesn't seem to be any countries from the Caribbean reporting any cases at all?
There's some. They're
some.
low, but there's some.
There's some.
I don't see any.
Well, I was Caribbean countries that are underreporting.
I was scheduled to go to the Dominican tomorrow, and when I canceled last week, they had 5 reported cases. And that was the information that I got from the travel agent. So if there's 5 cases, you've got to probably.
No, you're right. I hadn't gone far enough down the list. Aruba has 4. I hadn't gone below the top 20. So okay.
All I am waiting right now is a refund on my cruise.
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of people, especially with March break, that were canceling trips. I was surprised at how many people still went on their holidays.
Oh,
considering it was March break. I was
beaches
quite
were packed in Florida. The beaches were packed in Florida, and the governor is not shutting down the beaches. So there's your spike in the States.
Yeah, my sister is a nurse practitioner in Florida. She says it's absolutely nuts. She said they've got tents that are being set up for triaging.
Well, and they have an elderly population as well, because there's so many people that retire down there. So they're also the high risk category of people.
And all those snowbirds we have down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Tiffany, she's saying it's nuts because there's
people are
lots
stupid
of people showing up with symptoms, or just people are ignoring it.
People are stupid. People are stupid.
I was watching.
You know, they're being unsafe.
Yeah.
They're being unsafe and they're crazy in the stores.
I was gonna say, I think some of the businesses were trying to get in one last thing that they could to make the last bit of revenue that they could. It's even like in Nashville, Tennessee, they still went ahead with some of their things before, like if they were scheduled before the weekend or to happen on the weekend. And then come Monday, they're like, okay, now we're gonna comply and we're gonna shut down. So it's like now you had all those people out there and just because they were trying to get that one last fling in.
Well, that's like the New York Stock Exchange. There are 2 people on the floor that have been tested positive for corona. They're not closing it down till Monday, but they're announcing to everybody that they're closing it down Monday.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, what was it? Was it Louisiana? I don't know where it was. They had their St. Patty's Day parade.
What?
Oh, yeah, I read about that. I can't remember where that is either.
It was somewhere in Louisiana. I thought it might have been New Orleans.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Well, it
There-
certainly might explain why the experts are predicting it's going to hit the States worse than it's going to hit Canada or other places.
Because I haven't heard anything like that in Canada. It seems like, you know, everything has kind of died down. I know.
Died down last week or even a bit
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah, we closed our office on Friday. And it was Friday of last week. We closed our office. So everybody's working from home. But we weren't the first ones to do it. I think there were a bunch of people that had closed on Wednesday and Thursday, and then we made the decision on Thursday to close Friday. But Kelly Suzanne posted, she lives in Mississauga, Ontario, and she lives in a, I don't know if it's a condo or an apartment building, a high rise. And she can from her balcony can see the 401 and took a picture of the 401 at rush hour, and it was empty. Like you never see it like that. Even at like 2 o'clock in the morning, there's more cars on it than there was. And the 401 is one of the busiest highways in Ontario. So I think it's one of the busiest highways in Canada.
I had to go down to Barty, so I took an Uber down there today, and it was more cars. There wasn't a lot of cars. There was still some traffic, but it wasn't that bad because I had to go down and lay off all the staff.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to that topic with having to assist your clients, help your clients. Where is your go-to resource for finding out that information so that you're better able to help your clients?
Ceridian for me.
Okay, so your payroll provider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And for us, it's been
good
wage
information
as well.
from-
Yeah.
I've
Was that?
gotten some good information from the payroll providers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Resources.
Yeah. So all the payroll providers seem to be stepping up with information. So yours is Ceridian, ours is WagePoint. Anyone else using any of the other payroll providers? Are they doing the same? ADP?
Canadian Payroll Association. That's where all the payroll providers are getting the information from.
Okay.
I got from Gusto some really nice stuff. A whole link and explanation of what are your resources for as far as for FMLA and other policies that you need to have in place and how to go about them. So I have a whole long list on their one of their websites. It's an employer's guide to help with all this.
A great idea. Okay. So are all the questions or the majority of the questions that are coming from your clients, are they related to what are our obligations for our employees as we're closing the doors? Or are you getting lots of questions about, what are my options in terms of financing and payables and anything cash flow? Or is it all right now is the main focus, the employee side of it?
Right now, it's the employee side of it for most of my clients. They're just what to do with the employees. What do we have to do? The employees are panicked. How soon can we get ROEs? Like the ROE demand has been insane, like that kind of stuff. And then some clients are really concerned about the legal rate. Like, can I lay them off? What do I have to do? And that type of, but what if we have, like, one is a dentist's office. What if we have to hire back for an emergency, agreement? Then do I have to reissue? So a lot of technical. And then other questions, what does EI cover? What's the waiting period? I've heard this isn't no longer going to be the waiting period. What's this insurance? Oh, they made an announcement today. How do I apply for these benefits? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even, he just spoke about it. Like, there's no form yet. Like, what form can you, fill out? Can you send me one? It's that kind of stuff.
I got news today from Ceridian regarding the wait times and all that stuff. If you are getting laid off due to having the coronavirus, caring for somebody with the coronavirus, or caring for your children, the 1 week wait is waived. If you're just being laid off because of shortage of work, the 1 week is still there. And I'm sending a lawyer to all. Lawyer. I was dealing with lawyers today. I'm sending a letter to all the staff tomorrow. Well, actually Friday, when I get their ROEs on Friday, because I have to do that tomorrow, because today was payroll, tomorrow's ROEs. That is going to explain to them all what the guidelines are going to be for that, because they're all going to have the 1 week wait. But their ROEs going to be processed on Thursday, which means they'll be in CRA's system on Friday, and they'll get them in the mail by Tuesday, hopefully. I'm hoping the mail is not going to be that bad. And they're not paid until Thursday of next week. So they're getting it all well in advance, but they're also getting emails saying it's been processed. We're dealing with it as fast as possible. We also had tip checks that had to go out to the wait staff. So it's
it's all the logistics around alleviating the concerns about employees. And that's what we're finding, at our end as well. No one or very few of the business owners are thinking about themselves and their business because they're thinking about the employee side of things. So Amanda posted in the chat that her clients all want EI for themselves. And that was one of the things they announced today.
Yes.
And again, no real information around it, but that there was going to be EI being available for self-employed and contractors as well. But again, no information.
Yeah, I heard that there is a form going out as of April 1st that you have to fill out.
That.
Yeah. So that's what I've heard, that there's a form coming out in April 1st and then you fill it out. But I mean, meanwhile, you're 2 weeks without anything.
Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Oh no, go ahead, Rob.
Okay. It will be done through your My CRA account.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So
one of, I was going to say, if I might jump in, one of the things I'm getting a lot of questions about are these programs that Ford announced the other day and Trudeau announced the other day. And my savvier clients have started dialogues with their MPs and MPPs. And depending on where they are, some of them are actually starting to collect business owner information to actually be able to give that information out once it comes in.
Oh, okay.
I know that's something that a lot of people are asking about, especially some of the smaller companies that are, pretty close to hand to mouth.
Yeah. The one thing the lawyer said today, it was a labor lawyer that was talking to from Ceridian. E2M, have you ever heard of that? I've never heard of them either, but the lawyer did have one caveat. Almost everything that people are talking about hasn't been passed in Parliament, provincially or federally.
Provincially is supposed to be tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
They announced at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, 24 of them are getting together and are passing. And I thought they said that they were calling back the MPs for federal to pass that stuff as well. So
and
soon.
Possibly the Emergency Powers Act.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I hadn't heard that.
The only one that's immediately available is the temporary business wage subsidy.
Yeah.
So that one is available immediately and can be reduced off of your next source deduction. Everything else has to go through royal assent and will be available in either early May or early April or May.
Excuse me, I'm about to have a visitor, my cat. A 23-pound cat.
We have dogs, we have cats.
Yeah. You see Godfrey in the back there of Juliet?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, but Godfrey and Juliet are practicing social distancing.
Don't I have a keyboard?
This moment, yes. So Tiffany, can you talk about, I know this probably isn't going to be relevant for our US counterparts and US audience. Tiffany, can you talk about the temporary wage subsidy? So it's the difference between your source deductions. So they don't have to apply. It just automatically, they'll get the.
So what you do is you calculate what 10% of the gross wages are, and you reduce it off of the income tax portion of the source deductions that you are remitting.
Okay.
To a maximum of $1,325 per employee. Or $25,000 per employer, and it's only available to incorporated businesses that are eligible for the small business deduction, or charities or not-for-profits.
Okay, and that one is in effect right now. I thought it was.
Immediately.
Where
Okay,
is
I thought
that?
it was
Like, where do you?
That is on Canada's COVID-19 economic
I got that
response
right
plan
here.
on the back page.
Okay,
Four
so,
paragraphs down, section 3.
You betcha. I got
Can you
everything
Jennifer send that
highlighted
now?
and referenced and client names marked beside everything.
Yeah, can you, what was that again? The what?
okay,
That's
so
the third one down, the temporary business wage subsidy.
Okay.
if you guys go to the Kninja Network Accounting Professionals group, we've started a post topic called COVID-19, and everything that we're learning, we're posting there and tagging it. So we do have a link to the announcement today, and I put in there the temporary wage subsidy. I don't remember what the date is. I mean, but
Immediate.
that is also a resource for everyone. And if you guys find out anything, please feel free to throw it in there as well.
The other thing that's also immediate is that taxpayers who are currently required to take the minimum out of their RIF accounts, they can call their providers and have that amount, the minimum amount, reduced by 25%. So they're not pulling as much out of their RIF and, you know, crystallizing all those losses that have happened in their portfolios.
I'll have to let my stepfather know that.
Yeah.
And the other one as well that that is in effect right away is the delay on personal tax filing. It's not April 30th now, it's June 1st. And that your any tax installments
It's July 1st.
I heard June.
I heard June 1st.
Is it June 1st?
July 31st, they're deferring interest if they owe them.
It's now August 31st.
August 31st now.
August 31st, okay.
Corporate June 1st. Yeah.
Yeah, the filing is June 1st. But any corporate or any payments
Yeah, you're right.
and
Sorry.
installments is August 31st. And then on the corporate side, for corporate tax, it's the same thing. There's no payments due until August 31st for corporate income tax, but HST and source deductions, it's still all due when
Yeah, I heard
it's
the same thing.
meant to.
But corporate income taxes still have to file on time.
You have to file on time, but the payments are deferred, yes.
Yeah, but trusts, except if you're in a trust,
Right.
then the trusts that are December 31st are also delayed till May 1st.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So please do read the fine print. The link is in the Kninja 90 or the Kninja Network Accounting Professionals group. We've got all the links for all of this stuff, but absolutely, you know, read the fine print because we're kind of skimming over it. And although Tiffany has the document in front of her, I go by memory.
Kind of committed to memory already.
Perfect. Okay. So does that mean that a lot of people are finding information on social media? Is that how you're finding out about what's going on? Or are you actually going to the Canada websites? And Linda, you know, where are you going? You know, for our US audience, where is your resource for what's happening?
In the US, we have a lot of emails coming out. I mean, that's how I've been finding stuff. Interesting to compare to you guys. Our tax deadline is April 15th. So we still have to file, same as you, by April 15th. But they are extending the period of time to pay the taxes for 90 days. So I think that's July 15th. So then they're going to be giving them interest-free and penalty-free for anything. It says here, individuals owing less than 1 million and for corporations owing less than 10 million.
Oh, they're generous.
I'm following news from, we have Intuit QuickBooks, or this one's, I'm reading off of Insightful Accountant, which is the QuickBooks
industry newsletters. Okay.
Yeah, so they have a post in their newsletter. And then otherwise, I have things from Accounting Today is one that I follow. So they keep you up to date on a lot of the stuff that's from the IRS. So I'm trusting more of their sources more so than anything else.
Okay, interesting.
Kind of been bombarded with all kinds of emails of stuff.
Yeah, everyone has different sources that they're going to, which is, why I'm throwing it out there. And Steve, you had a source that you wanted to call out on conferences.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say my source is Juliet.
A good source.
Well, usually, yeah. No, actually, I wanted to give a shout out to, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the Cloud Accounting podcast, but if you're not, highly recommend. They have some great information. But I wanted to give a shout out to David Leary, who has actually created a website called accountingconferences.com, where they are listing over 100 accounting and small business conferences around the world as to when they take place, where they are, and if they've been canceled. So if it really is, it's great. You can filter it by month. There's all kinds of filters on it, but it's a great resource if you're trying to keep track of, has that conference been canceled? What are the dates of that conference? So accountingconferences.com. Shout out to David for putting that together. I think it's a great resource for everybody.
So, and there are a ton of conferences that are being canceled left, right, and center. So, so being aware of that, absolutely. Okay. Okay, so we've talked about from the coronavirus global statistics side where you're getting your information. We've talked about some of the questions that clients are asking, and there was a comment as well from Sal who said that he gets questions about small business fundings and clients asking if they're eligible for funding based on the government announcements. And I find it interesting that, so Trudeau announces something at 11 o'clock this morning and our clients call us at 11:30, how do I apply? Well, we heard about it at 11 o'clock as well, but that they just assume that we've got, some kind of inside track that we know about all this stuff before they do.
That's actually a great thing, right? That we have that kind of relationship with our clients, and that kind of trust that we are the ones that they look to have the answers. I think that's great.
I just don't like saying I don't know.
No, but it's a great opportunity, like Steve said. Those people that want to strengthen the relationships with their customers and be seen as someone that has answers and should be a go-to, this is a tremendous opportunity to earn that, so that 6 months
and I had this conversation with my team as well a couple of days ago. I think it was Monday. No, it might have been yesterday. The days are all kind of a blur. Where we were talking about how the conversation with our clients, we've heard from them more than we usually do, which is what we would expect. But that the conversations have shifted because they're talking about how they feel about how this is going to affect their business, which is not a typical conversation that you would always have with your clients. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't, but that it's just a pattern that we're seeing. And part of it is they're scared, they're nervous, they don't know what's going on. And, part of that, Stephen was talking about at the beginning, the uncertainty of it all. But also, I think part of it is that as small business owners, they don't necessarily have the network that we've developed in our industry on social to support each other. And so a lot of small business owners may not have a small business support network around them to hear what other small businesses are doing or how it's affecting them. And so we're their go-to people because they know that we're experiencing it with other businesses as well. So do take that into consideration when you're talking to your clients, that they are going to rely on you for more than just what the normal services that you provide. And so maybe, okay, so Christian asked a question, did any of you close your offices? So we have, our team is all working remotely. So our office is technically open, but the physical office is closed. Anybody else?
have no office. My
So you're
staff are
remote anyway.
absolutely loving this. But just a shout out, because we got a really, really quick response from your office today. Thank you.
Okay, good. Excellent. So
It's nice to know that we're closed, but we're still open.
Yes. Anyone else have a physical office that they have possibly closed?
We have one we're rotating, alternating days in the office, who gets to sit there and who doesn't, so.
Okay. And can you tell me why you've decided not to just close?
It's a little bit easier sometimes to work from the office,
Yes.
just with multiple screens. The setup is different than what
Yes.
we have it at home, right? So it's an adjustment, so.
Yes. Well, and interestingly enough, so I'm working from home. I hate working from home. Absolutely hate it. And I'm going stir crazy. I'm only on day 3 and I'm going stir crazy working from home. And I actually said to Steve, I think I need to go into the office. It's empty. There's nobody there. I'm not going to catch anything. But I'm going, and I've got the multiple monitors and I've got the setup. But I don't like working from home.
It's the mindset for me. I like the mindset of getting in my car, going to the office.
Yes.
Home is home time and office is office time, so.
Well, and so what I did this morning to, again, try and shift it for me, or it might have been yesterday, is I actually got ready as though I was going to work, as opposed to working in my pajamas, which I did day 1 and day 2.
I don't ever do that.
I was going to work and be more productive. I think it helped a little bit, but I still didn't necessarily like it. So anyone else have any suggestions?
I go to clients sometimes still. I go like 2 or twice a week. So I go to clients to meet. So one of my clients is a medical clinic. So I'm like, but I had to go because they're not really set. So I went to the medical. I'm like, this is the worst place in the world to go. There's 8 doctors in there and they're completely not set up. And everyone was like putting barriers and putting signs up. And I'm like, and like all the staff were going crazy because it was Monday. It was Monday morning. So they were going to try to work. People were running around with computers trying to get, it was nuts, but it was, so it's been a transition for a handful of clients, but thankfully most of our clients were remote anyway. But it is interesting to see the effect it has on all these other businesses for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And Kelly, just, throwing it out there, food for thought. So a couple of our people that are working from home didn't have the multiple monitor setup. So they took their setup from the office and set up.
I'm thinking of doing that. Actually, I might steal one of my son's monitors for gaming. Bring it down.
You'll be popular.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Right. I'm okay for now. I'm gonna go. My day in the office is Friday, so I'm saving kind of my multi-screen tasks for Friday, and everything else I can do a lot easier.
That's my problem with working at home. I game. I also game.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do
I
that.
got the distraction of the same. It's the same computer.
Oh, see that? Yeah, no.
Yeah, so that could be tough. Yeah. Okay, so any suggestions? Okay, so Diane is bringing up a good point. Diane's comment is, my husband is home and is driving me crazy. Okay, so
that's
with that, also, the kids are all home.
Wait a second.
It's Steve. No,
What about my wife is home and driving me crazy? Let's do this both ways.
Okay, so my spouse is also home, but also my kids are home, right? Like schools are closed.
Yeah.
So how is everyone coping with all of with the whole household being in the house all the time? Any suggestions of what's working for you? That
doctors are forecasting a baby boom in 9 months.
Yeah.
I kid you not. They are forecasting a baby boom in 9 months.
They are.
And it's probably called perennials.
Oh.
Okay, so that's got to be the worst joke, right?
That's too soon.
Definitely. Jennifer, he just knocked you out of top spot.
I'm okay to lose to that one.
Okay.
Because the flip
I've
side,
been trying to say that the whole call.
Okay.
side to that is lawyers are predicting a lot of divorce, unfortunately, from this.
Okay, so
Yeah,
any
that's the other side of it.
suggestions for the people that are not only having to work from home, but whole families are at home as well. So how do you, I know that people are having to adjust their schedule to do the homeschooling for their kids and go through the teaching stuff. I mean, our kids are older and grown, and we don't have to deal with that. But I know that there are people having to deal with that as well. So how are you balancing all of that? Any suggestions for the people in our audience that are having to balance that?
I have 4 kids, so, and it's insane because my husband's also working from home. So there's 6 of us in the household. So it's been great. Really productive. Absolutely. Really professional too, when you're in the, talking on a Zoom call with a client, and there's a kid screaming because he just passed this level on a video game, and you're like, just as a quiet. So it's been really great. But really what we have done is I have a schedule that I stop working, and it's okay to stop working for that hour and a half. Like I have an hour and a half lunch now. And that's when my daughter and I do something, my son and I, we go for, or whatever. It has to be, I schedule it out so that it's okay and that they know it's not. Anyway, so it's working kind of, but I'm not working as many hours as I was before. I just can't.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Any other recommendations? So Allison in the chat has listed that she scheduled them so that they have a plan to their day and trying to figure out how to get work done during homework time. And Brian Clare's suggestion is to turn on the TV for your kids. And you will feel differently, Brian, when your daughter is older. She still is, I'm not even sure she's a year old yet, right? Yeah, she's not even a year old yet. You will feel differently when she's a little bit older, and you won't want to just put her in front of the TV. Any other suggestions of what maybe you've seen online for?
We sent out that email today, and I guess there was three links, I think, in that one. And I think one was indoor activities for a busy toddler, but also 101 things to do when your kids are bored. And that was actually a pretty good article. There was some good ideas there. And then also, I don't know if any of you guys have all heard of the Khan Academy, KHAN, but they have online programs and courses for younger kids. Like it's not just for teenagers and adults. So there are resources out there, to help.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Most of the museums are doing virtual tours through museums. I saw virtual tours through national parks as well. That are things that you can do with your kids. So there are a whole bunch of, and I've seen a lot of businesses, which I think is quite brilliant, who have had to close their doors, are actually doing online equivalents for their audience. So if you're a yoga studio, they're doing online yoga classes. So it keeps their client base engaged so that when this all passes, and it will at some point pass and the doors open again, that their client base is still engaged. So there is a bunch of stuff online. We are finding our internet is affected because everybody is online. So it'll be interesting to see, how that all pans out. I know in Canada, I think all the major telecommunication companies have said that they have waived the overage fees on internet usage.
As well. Everybody else, mine's already unlimited.
Okay.
I know. They've also free long distance.
Yep.
And free roaming if you need to see family members and stuff.
Again, mine already covers that. I did hear for people with families, at least with Rogers, all the family channels are free now for the kids.
That's good.
So there you go, Brian. You can put them in front of the TV because the family channels are free. Okay. So Steve, you had a couple other things you wanted to mention, and we've got about 6 minutes left.
Oh, okay. I guess the first thing, hopefully we haven't been bombarding everyone too much in the last few days with emails, but we've had quite a few things that we've sent out, which hopefully were helpful. If you are not on our email list and you'd like to make sure that you get this kind of stuff that we send out, please just go to the Kninja website, kninja.net, and you can sign up to be a VIP and be on our list. You can unsubscribe anytime. So if we are sending you too much stuff or you don't like what we're sending you, you can simply say, stop it and go away, and we will absolutely do that. Also wanted to give a shout out to Practice Ignition, and huge congratulations to the top 50 women in accounting. It was great to see so many members of our own community, friends and colleagues, who are all very well deserving. And I think it's a great thing Practice Ignition is doing. I guess this is the second year they've done it. I think it was to started, I think, last year to help promote International Women's Day. And so I think it's a great thing that they're doing. The other thing I wanted to just talk about, and I don't know if we've mentioned this before, we may have, but we are going to be launching a podcast. I would say in the next 60 to 90 days. I'm not sure how fast the process is with everything else going on, how quickly it's going to move along. But I think you guys may like the name of the podcast. Looking at today.
I like the name.
Yeah. So the podcast is going to be called Smart Man, Smarter Woman.
Likes the name.
And yeah, it's, I'm not sure I love it, but anyway,
I love it. It's great.
Yeah,
it's the only way he could convince me to do it.
yeah, I know. So anyway, that's going to be launched. We will be continuing. We're not, one of the things we were asked was, are you going to be stopping the wine and whiskey Wednesdays if you're going to do a podcast? The answer is no. We are going to continue, but wine and whiskey, once the podcast is launched, will start taking on a different format. But as we get closer, we'll talk about that a lot more.
Yeah, because we don't have it worked out yet. That's why we're not talking about it.
Is that why we're not talking about it? Well,
we don't know we're doing it.
That's just great that you shared that with everyone, Juliet.
Hey, we're keeping it real. We don't have all the answers.
Okay, well, I knew that part, but and those were my announcements. All I have, I got nothing else here other than my quote.
Okay. All right. So we're 8:58. I'm just looking to see if there's any other of the items that I've missed in the chat. So Diane says, Steve, I need 101 things for your husband to do. Was that your list?
Spring cleaning.
Yes,
spring cleaning, Juliet.
Well, there's a lot of people who think children and husbands are very similar. So maybe if you look at the 101 things for your kids to do, there might be some stuff in there for husbands as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So one question I want to throw out there, and again, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but something for everyone to think about is we've talked about, the shift in the relationship between you and your clients, or the possible shift that could be happening with all the information that they're asking of you. How many of you are actually being proactive and throwing some of this information together and putting a newsletter out for and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't need tools. You can do it in your own email if you want. MailChimp is free for a certain number, and I don't know how many subscribers there are, but MailChimp is free. But if you don't want to go through the whole setup, put your name in the to field and blind copy all of your clients just through your regular email provider. But it really is an opportunity for you to be able to show your value and add some extra information that's going to help your clients. And if you don't know what to put in it, go to the Kninja Network Facebook group and steal all the stuff that I'm posting in there that is related to COVID, and copy and paste and put an opening paragraph and a closing line that says, if you have any questions, please ask me. It will certainly add some value to your clients, and they will look at you a little bit differently. You're able to give them some extra information.
Well, with me, the client that I sent out dealing with the letter with all the staff, letting them know what's doing, he was extremely appreciative that I was drafting all that and doing it for him, because he wants his staff coming back. They're great staff. Some of them have been there for 20 something years. He wants all of them coming back. So, and when I saw him doing that, he was extremely happy about that.
We're all in this together, and it's, I think one of our most important roles is to help, clients as much as we can, particularly in times like this, right? That we need them to stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay. We're at 9 o'clock, 9:01. Or overtime. Don't like to be overtime. So thank you all. I think it was a great conversation.
Excuse me, quote.
Oh, your quote. Yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead. You have to read your quote.
Okay. So the quote for this week is from Richard Branson. And it is, "My attitude has always been, if you fall flat on your face, at least you're moving forward. All you have to do is get back up and try again."
Absolutely.
Like that one.
Great quote to end us off with, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing that quote, Steve. I'm glad we didn't.
You're very welcome.
So cheers, everyone. Have a stay safe, and we'll see you all next Wednesday.
You too.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.